The screams of Rhea filled the entire house. "No, no, Sophie," he shrieked piercingly. His voice was full of desperation and urgency. Jessica burst into the bedroom. Her heart was pounding like crazy. She didn't know if she would witness a tragedy or a miracle. Before watching further, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this. And write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Jessica pushed open the front door. In her arms was little Sophie, wrapped in a pink blanket. Rhea was waiting on his perch, a 4-year-old yellow-headed Amazon, with bright green feathers, a golden head, and orange eyes fixed on the tiny bundle. "Look at him," Mark said quietly. He senses that something has changed. Jessica sat on the couch, gently cradling Sophie. Rhea tensed up completely, feathers puffed, head sharply tilted. He was studying this new little creature intently. Sophie cooed softly. Rhea hopped closer along the perch. His head bobbed. "He's curious," Jessica said. Rhea stretched his neck forward, bright eyes locked on Sophie's face. Then Sophie opened her tiny eyes. At first they wandered around the room, unfocused, but then they settled on Rhea. They stared at each other in complete silence for a long time. Rhea made a soft sound, almost a whisper. "Peep," he chirped gently. "Peep, peep." It was his first attempt to talk to her, a tender greeting between a newborn and a being who understood far more than just words. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "Did you see that? He's trying to talk to her." Mark smiled. Looks like he just found himself a new best friend. From that moment, everything changed. Days turned into weeks, and Rhea became completely devoted to Sophie's rhythm of life. When Sophie cried, Rhea immediately shouted, "Mama, Mama," loud and clear, audible in every room of the house. Jessica would come running, and Rhea was already perched by the crib, looking down at the crying baby. "He's better than any baby monitor," Mark joked. But Rhea's involvement went deeper than just an alarm signal. He started learning Sophie's name. One morning, Jessica leaned over the crib and whispered, "Good morning, Sophie." Rhea jerked his head. "Sophie," he repeated slowly. "Sophie." Jessica froze. "Mark," he said her name. In the following days, Rhea practiced nonstop. "Sophie, Sophie," and soon he began using it meaningfully. When Sophie woke from a nap, Rhea would call gently, "Sophie, wake up, Sophie." When she fussed, he would say, "Good girl, Sophie, good girl." He picked up phrases from Jessica, but now said them on his own timing. Sophie giggled when she heard his special 3-note whistle, a melody he created just for her. She reached her tiny hands toward him when he sat on the edge of the crib, and he gently touched her fingers with his beak. Rhea whispered to Sophie as she fell asleep, "I love you, baby. I love you, Sophie." Words he learned from Jessica and Mark, now spoken with his own devotion. Their bond grew stronger every day, but then something changed. Rhea began behaving strangely around Sophie when she slept. At first it was subtle. He would sit on the edge of the crib and stare down silently for a very long time, head tilted at odd angles, bright eyes fixed, unblinking. At first Jessica thought, "It's nothing, he's just guarding her." But the behavior grew more intense. Sometimes Rhea leaned in closer, his yellow head just inches from Sophie's face, beak slightly open, as if he was about to do something. Mark noticed at first. "I don't like how he's hovering over her like that," he said one evening. "It feels wrong." Jessica frowned. "He's just caring for her, that's all." "It looks like obsession," Mark replied quietly. One afternoon, while Sophie slept peacefully, Rhea suddenly dove and landed right in the crib next to her. He started pecking at the blanket. Sharp, deliberate strikes, not at Sophie, but very close. Too close to her head. Sophie stirred and whimpered. Jessica rushed in instantly. "Rhea, no!" she shouted sharply and shooed him away. Rhea screeched in protest, flapping his wings furiously, feathers raised in excitement. "Did you see that?" Mark asked that night. He was pecking the blanket, right next to her head. What if he had hit her face? Jessica couldn't sleep. The scene replayed in her mind over and over. Rhea's sharp beak so close to Sophie's delicate skin. What if Mark was right? What if Rhea was becoming dangerous? Then came the moment that terrified them both to the core. Rhea landed directly on Sophie's stomach while she slept, stood there, and stared down at her face with those piercing, unblinking eyes. Jessica saw it, and her blood ran cold. She rushed in, grabbed Rhea, and roughly pulled him off Sophie. "No, Rhea, no, you can't do that." Rhea screamed loudly, angrily, struggling in her hands. Sophie woke up and cried from the noise. Mark appeared in the doorway, pale. "What happened?" "He was standing on her," Jessica said in a trembling voice. "I don't understand what's wrong with him." One afternoon, Sophie was sleeping soundly when Rhea suddenly started screaming. Unusual cries, desperate, almost furious. "Sophie, Sophie, Sophie," louder and more panicked each time. Sophie woke in tears, frightened by the sudden noise. Jessica found Rhea on the crib railing, feathers puffed, eyes wild, body shaking with agitation. "What's wrong with you?" Jessica demanded, picking up the crying baby. "Why are you doing this?" Rhea screamed even louder. "No, no, no." That night, Jessica and Mark sat together, exhausted and scared. "We need to keep him away from her," Mark said firmly. "This has gone too far." Jessica's heart sank, but she couldn't ignore what she'd seen. Rhea's behavior had become unpredictable, aggressive, even dangerous. "Maybe you're right," she finally said, "at least for a little while." The next morning, they moved Rhea's perch to the living room, far from Sophie. Rhea protested loudly, crying "Sophie, Sophie," over and over, his voice full of anguish. Jessica cried as she closed the nursery door, cutting him off. It felt like she was betraying him, but she was Sophie's mother first, and mothers protect their children, even from those they love. The next day, Jessica was in the kitchen, preparing a bottle for Sophie. Sophie was sleeping upstairs in her crib. Rhea sat on his perch in the living room. Suddenly, Rhea exploded into motion. He launched off and flew up the stairs like lightning, faster than Jessica had ever seen. "Rhea!" she shouted, chasing after him. "Rhea, no!" But Rhea didn't listen. He flew straight into the nursery, screaming at the top of his lungs. "No, no, Sophie!" Jessica burst into the room, ready to pull him away from the crib, but what she saw made her freeze. Sophie was sleeping on her stomach. Jessica had placed her that way, even though she knew she shouldn't. But Sophie had rolled over. She was still in the crib, but had slid toward the edge. Her tiny body inched closer and closer to the corner where the rails met the mattress. In a few more seconds, she would have gotten stuck in the gap, face pressed against the bar, unable to breathe. Rhea had seen it before Jessica did. He landed on the crib rail and threw his body between Sophie and the corner, spreading his wings to block her movement. Sophie gently bumped into Rhea's soft green feathers and stopped rolling. Rhea didn't move. He stayed there, forming a barrier with his wings. "Sophie's safe," he said quietly. "Good girl, Sophie." Jessica's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, Rhea." She carefully picked up Sophie, who was still peacefully asleep, unaware of the danger. Rhea hopped onto her shoulder and rubbed against her cheek. "Good bird," Jessica sobbed. Good bird." That same night, they moved Rhea's perch back to the nursery. 3 days later, Rhea saved Sophie again. Mark was drinking coffee in the nursery, while Sophie played in her crib. He set the mug on a small table next to the crib, too close to the edge. Sophie reached up, her hand swiped through the air, and accidentally bumped the table. The mug tilted. Hot coffee began pouring straight down towards Sophie. Rhea saw it instantly. He launched from his perch with a cry. "Hot! Hot! Mama!" In mid-flight, he slammed his wing into the falling mug and knocked it aside. The coffee spilled, but not into the crib or on Sophie. It splashed onto the floor, hot and dark. Mark froze, staring at the puddle. "Rhea," he breathed. "You save her again." Rhea landed on the crib rail. Feathers ruffled from the impact. "Sophie's safe," he said firmly. Mark sat down heavily, hands shaking. "If you hadn't—" He couldn't finish. Rhea flew down and landed on Mark's knee, tilted his golden head, and looked up. "Love you," Rhea said quietly. Mark reached out and gently stroked Ria's back. I love you too, buddy. I'm sorry we doubted you. Months passed. Sophie grew into a giggling toddler who loved crawling toward Ria's perch. Sophie, Sophie. Ria called joyfully, and Sophie laughed and reached for him. One evening, Sophie said her first word. Ria? Ria puffed up with pride. My Sophie, he whispered. It wasn't just a bird anymore, it was family. Did you like this story? If you were Sophie's parent and saw Ria behaving strangely around your child, would you trust him and keep him nearby? Yes or no? Write in the comments below. If the story touched you, subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Huge thanks for watching till the end. See you in the next video. Have a great day. M.